Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to episode 625 of the DrunkNerds podcast. I'm your host, as always. I'm Tyler. And join me, we have the man, the myth, the legend himself, HOTTOGO, Sir Colonel Gables. What's up, buddy?
Oh man, I'm going pretty good. I just finished up SummerSlam as well as you did.
Mm-hmm.
And we were just talking a little bit over that before we started record and stuff. Yeah, we're gonna feel like we kind of want more in terms of some aspects of that show, but yet that show in and of itself was kind of like average at best. But other than that though, other than that, man, I'm doing pretty good. I've pretty much been playing like one thing throughout this whole week. So it's like in between stuff at work and then try to get all the other tasks done around the house and stuff. It's like I've been pretty much focused upon doing like more of the Capcom fighting collection.
Nice.
So yeah, later on I'm going to talk a little bit about the progress I've made in that because I've made some significant progress.
All right. Very cool.
But other than that, man, I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
You know me, man. Just clanging and banging as always. just got a doctor's appointments with the foot specialist this next week.
Hmm.
So exciting. Find out if I have to get. I've been off work with a broken foot for the last 6 weeks. So I'll finally get the see specialist, find out if I get surgery or not. So it's exciting. Let's get the ball fucking rolling on this shit. Going nuts. But I'm doing all right.
Yeah, no
Otherwise,
shit.
just watching a lot of TV, playing a lot of video games. I guess the nice thing is like I'm definitely like I'm catching up on a lot of television. Um, Watching some shows I wouldn't normally watch, like Poop
Hmm.
Sock to all of like Big Little Lies on HBO in like 2 days. That was actually a pretty good little show. Um, I watched all of Cobra Kai. I'm caught up on the Cobra Kai. Well, no, I watched the new episodes from the latest season. Been playing a fuck ton of Persona 3 Reload Gables. Uh, when I remember who the person that told me that Persona 3 Reload was 60 hours, I'm gonna find them. I'm gonna fist fight them in the fucking street. Because I've passed the 70-hour mark, and I'm not close to the ending, and I'm like, what the fuck. So, but other than that, I'm doing okay. Just like I said, cling and bang. The best part though is Gables. It's that time of year, baby. Oktoberfest is back. Bam!
Ah,
So excited. I just kind of did a little cruising, then went to the grocery store, hobbling around, and went to the beer section. And there was a beautiful 6 pack of Samuel Adams Oktoberfest. So I'm very happy about that. It's my favorite drinks in the whole wide world. It's like that and like my coffee from Starbucks I get. Like those are like my two favorite things in the world. But yeah, so I'm doing all right otherwise though. But people, in case you didn't know, Gables and I get together every week, talk about video games, everything we love and hate about them. This week probably gonna be closer to a lot of things we hate about them. But yeah, if you guys like the show, like what we're doing here, I really would appreciate it if you guys like, follow, subscribe, 5-star reviews, leave comments, share with, tell your friends. We're on everything: YouTube, um, Apple Podcasts. Sorry, had a brain fart there. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere podcasts are on them. Are out. We're on them. Twitter, Facebook, all that. There are links down below if you want to click on those things and just check us out in those places. And like I said, 5-star reviews, thumbs ups, all that. Really would appreciate it. I see the views out there, and more people should go out and make a habit, even if it's not us, make a habit of just like you know give a thumbs up. Um,
yeah.
Anytime I watch a content creator I like or whatever, I always make sure I give them a thumbs up just to maybe it doesn't seem like a lot, but a quarter second to you to click that button means a lot to us. So really appreciate it, especially with a lot of things going on right now. With we see a lot of places shutting down, all that, or layoffs. Like give a thumbs up here and there. Content creators out in the world, give them a little thumbs up, a little show of appreciation, and means more people will see them, and maybe it means they'll stick around a little bit longer. But Gills, let's just get into it here. I have a combination of just a lot of different people here, from Paul Tassi from Forbes, Jason Schreier from
Hmm.
Bloomberg, Jeff Grubb from Giant Bomb and Game Mess, then also Kat Bailey as well. Just a lot of different tidbits here from everything that happened with Bungie this week. Obviously, they had mass
Yep.
layoffs. A lot of people get moved around, so bear with me because a lot of details here. I usually try to do a good job of like cutting down a lot of info. There's just a lot of info here. That was just kind of I was adding to it as we were going. Like I started off like, all right, cool. I got the parts here, and then just more and more stuff was happening throughout the week. So starting off
Hmm.
here, Bungie announced it would lay off 220 employees, 17% of their staff. Doesn't include the 120 or so, 120 something that got laid off back in October. They're moving 155 roles into Sony Interactive Entertainment, and another 40 are going to create another sub studio inside Sony, and they're working on another game, a smaller game as well. Um, yeah, so part of it too is we could probably delve into this a little bit later, but Pete Parsons, who is the CEO of Bungie, he's been the CEO there he's been there longer as like a top person, but he's been the CEO since 2016. People have been showing off a lot, talking a lot about he spent over $2.5 million in the last year on auctions for classic cars. Um, you know, written by Parson himself, he says that there are still 850 people that are still working on Destiny Marathon, and depending on the marathon team size, that's likely around half of the number of people working on Destiny. So, 400 plus, 400 to 500 people still working on are still working on Destiny. Um, you break down the math here. Back in October, before the first layoffs, they had over 1,500 people. Now they're saying there is about 850. So nearly half the studio has been gone in, was that 8 months, 9 months? Um, Parsons' message here. So this is the reason that Parsons gave. He said that Bungie was spread too thin, creating the largest volume of Destiny content the game has seen, while simultaneously spooling over Marathon for a 2025 release. Then a number of other incubated projects on top of all that. It was way too much, as leadership wanted Bungie to be Blizzard or BioWare, with a number of huge high profile series running simultaneously. But clearly there was no plan in place to actually make that work. Those companies also did not have live service like Destiny to constantly manage as well. So that was some of the stuff they had here. All this is doubly, so this is from Pete Parsons here. All this is doubly frustrating given that there was no recent large-scale failure that can be blamed for this. Bungie worked tirelessly on the final shape, which ended up being its best expansion to date and delivered on every front. I think it's like the highest reviewed thing they've had out there, and I think most part it seems like everybody's really really happy with final shape. I know you were really happy with it too, Gables. But the reality appears
Yes.
to be that this course was always set, and there was no reasonable level of performance the final shape could hit to avert this, even if that's what the employees were told. So that's kind of some of the details that come out about this is that something that I was reading about later. Apparently, the plans to do these layoffs have been in the works since January or February. So they knew there's like
Wow.
basically like so they've been telling their employees for months. Like, and that was some Rebecca Valentine from IGN and Jason Schreier from Bloomberg also reported on this in the last year, early this year, about how like they were told that basically like they like had to nail the final shape and like to like basically still won't be more layoffs or anything like that. To kind of find out that basically they were nothing was gonna there's nothing they could have done, and like probably short of it like becoming Elden Ring, like there was nothing they could have done. um this is also from Paul Tassi here. There's a growing sense that what remains of Bungie is slowly being absorbed into Sony, and after these reported leadership failures, Herman Hulse become a more heavy-handed may become more heavy-handed, and that's coming from Jeff Grubb, basically saying that Herman Hulse basically runs. He's like second command to PlayStation. He kind of like runs the day-to-day of like all the studios. Based sounds like this is pretty much the beginning of PlayStation taking over, and that's part of the details we have of like when Bungie was bought by Sony. Part of that was keeping their independence, but also was they had to keep their independence. They had to hit certain financial goals along the way.
Yep.
Some more detail. Actually, before we get into that, Gables, what was your overall thoughts on all the layoffs and everything that happened?
Let's see. Obviously, the layoffs were obviously terrible in regards to the extent. I didn't know the full extent of the mismanagement and leadership had been over at Bungie over until like around this past week. I mean, there had been inklings to where it's like some of the inside, like some of the management and Bungie and stuff hadn't been like very forthcoming about certain aspects I've heard over the past like year or so. But yeah, there really wasn't a insider type of thing looking into the actual events that kind of led up until now that what I'm understanding. I still feel like that a bunch of this stuff was just supremely mismanaged in terms of just the Bungie studios in general, the lack of direction, the overstretching of like the different like developers and stuff like that to multiple different projects. I mean, also some bits of stuff do play into effect too. I mean, the overhiring. I mean, Bungie was hiring so many different.
Yeah.
people on at one point and stuff. I mean, a lot of that had to do for some aspects, say when COVID was still going on and there was a lot of demand at that point in time because everybody was all shut in and stuff. But it just kind of feels like there was such a hodgepodge of multiple different things that kind of led to this like almost like over half of like people that worked at the studio all of a sudden are gone with the span of like a year or two. But I feel like the number one thing to take away from this is like one, P. Parsons definitely mismanaged Bungie in terms of the overall expenses. I mean, it's a horrible look for any CEO to where you just laid off about like 17% of your workforce and stuff, and all of a sudden news gets out that you spent over $2 million in terms of like vintage cars.
Yeah.
I mean, no matter where you're going to spend it, I mean that's going to be a horrible look, not only in the eyes of like everyday people, but those that you're personally working with on a day-to-day basis. Because now, with everything else that has been coming into effect, and also in terms of now your fellow coworkers know for a fact that no matter what you would have done in terms of your work performance to try to make the final shape the best that it could have been, and honestly, it is, in my opinion, one of the best pieces of content that Bungie ever produced for Destiny 2, knowing that the management knew months in advance that regardless of the quality of the product, that they would be letting go a whole bunch of people. I mean, that's incredibly shitty.
Hmm.
That's such a mislead because had a lot of those people knew, they would have packed their bags a long time ago and found another job. I mean, I mean, this just reeks of just a lot of deception and also a lot of heavy-handed tactics in terms of like a business perspective. Because I understand like some aspects of how companies are supposed to work to where they want to try to get the most profit as possible, but I still feel like, and this is just my point of view of this, where it's like if the final shape had been even greater and had like a lot more like say a lot of 10 out of 10 sort of thing, if it would have been like the Elden Ring of like live service games or something like that, in terms of having a lot of this great content, people constantly coming back, like a lot of their fan base coming back, a lot of new people coming in and stuff, instead of just like what Final Shape is now, to where it pleases a lot of the established base and it's a freaking awesome expansion stuff, but yet you still lost a whole bunch of like people after the expansion was done. Plus, it did entice more new players to get into the thing, which drove down the initial sales, where people don't even feel like they want to come back in
Yeah.
after this initial thing. It's like there's just so many different things coming into effect and playing into effect that it just feels horrible all the way around. It just there's no sugarcoating this. This feels like a kind of a downward spiral to Bungie's independence, and a lot of it is their own self-doing because of horrible mismanagement.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right. And it's like you read some of the stories. One woman was literally going on maternity leave on Monday, and she got laid
Yeah,
off. I feel like there's got to be. I
yeah,
know like the laws in our country are not the best at protecting us, but I feel like
no,
there should be something against that. Like a woman, like she's having a baby, and like the company knows she's about to go on maternity, and you just let her go. And and you heard like a lot of like the people that were let go are the people that like are like a lot of are like the key people on the final shape. A lot of like the writing team got hit really hard on the final shape, which sucks. So they just a lot of people are like talking about like some of the best content they put out from the writing team are just gone now. The two
yep,
key people that like kind of make Destiny what it is, Mark and Luke are their names. Um, they left. They weren't laid off, but they left the studio after this, just kind of seeing the direction of it. So like your two
yeah,
like lead creative people are gone. And it sucks too because like so I was reading. I can't remember the guy's name, but like basically like I think in January February, um, early this year they had like basically put a new guy in charge of Destiny 2, and it's kind of like it seemed like he was
hmm
doing a good job of like or at least had like the right ideas in mind and
right.
saw kind of the pain points of like some like me and a lot of people talk about like people like love Destiny at launch, maybe like jump to the first one or two expansions, and then we try to jump back in, and it's just impossible and it's overwhelming.
It's convoluted.
Yes.
It's convoluted for new players to come into unless you absolutely try to streamline a whole bunch of different things to make it more palatable for new players. It suffers the same type of bloat, same type of effect as like other online like MMO style of games,
Yeah.
like World of Warcraft. That's part of their problem. They've been around for so long, they've had so many expansions, and there's been so many different things that any new player coming in, they are going to be automatically overwhelmed to the extent where they're not going to be lasting even for a few months. I know that. I've experienced that firsthand with World of Warcraft, and I understand new players' aspects if they're coming into Destiny 2 for the first time. Like, even say they try playing it like this year or something like that because of all the hubbub of like, okay, the Witch Queen was a great expansion, or hey, Destiny 2, that game, the gameplay looks enticing enough to where I want to play this or invest inside this. But yet they're missing out a lot of key aspects of it because it's like you didn't play Destiny 2 like the original campaign released, and like a lot of the content and expansions even from back when they were owned by Activision still are not available, or they've been sunsetted, or things are just lost. I mean, even the Forsaken expansion at that point, which was one of Bungie's best when they were still with Activision, that's not even readily playable.
Yeah.
So it's like incredibly hard for like anybody to get invested to that extent, But what the overall thing I kind of feel like in especially when it comes to the future, say of Destiny 2, after all these events have unfolded with Bungie and possibly in terms of their independence being taken over completely by Sony because of this level of just horrible business decisions. I mean, this doesn't look great. This doesn't look great at all.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks like from what I've pieced together from what I've read from different articles, from like different people talking from perspectives, it's like they're not going to go up on the realm of like a major expansion. They're going to go rounds of like, say, certain season passes, certain content passes, or anything like that. At that point, you're pretty much having this game on life support. You don't have anything concrete. Destiny 3 isn't even a thing that's in development. It's just some side games that were canceled.
Yeah. Payback.
All they're focusing now is putting all their eggs in the basket of trying to keep Destiny 2 on life support while they're trying to push out Marathon as quickly as possible. That tells me that Destiny 2 is quintessentially dead without saying it's outright dead, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like that's what sucks. Like that's what I was saying about this guy taking over is like trying to make it easier to onboard people, which I think has been desperately needed for years now.
Yes, absolutely.
We talk about like kind of like I can't remember what they're calling him, but basically like they were like the new thing they did in April, where they kind of did like a kind of like almost like a seasonal event thing. Like they kind of it was like bigger than
Uh-huh.
an event, and I guess like that the fans were really happy about that, and it brought people back in April. And they're gonna do them twice a year. And that was a big part of his idea, and like those seem to be working out pretty well. And it's like free content, and but it's just it's like more people buying season passes, more people playing the game, more people spending money on it. That was part of like it just seems like and then obviously Final Shape, but obviously it sounds like that maybe like maybe they'll like still work on making onboarding easier, but like it doesn't seem like he's gonna get a fair shake out of this because like they're
Right.
not gonna put the resources in to like give him a real shot to make this thing as big as it could have been.
No.
Um, and yeah, like I think the most damning thing of anything, and there's more. I got more shade to talk like more bullet points here to talk about is like talk about Gables is like I think the most maybe one of the most damning things about Pete Parsons and leadership there is like the fact that Destiny 3 was just not even in development. Like, and at one point I was reading the leadership thought that creating Destiny 3 was too much of a risk, but it's like I'm thinking like okay, like your big thing is Destiny 2, and you're getting your annual peaks and maybe some like bigger peaks for seasonal events, but like year over year you're
Mm-hmm.
falling, and like I'm not gonna sit there and like Destiny 2 is a Destiny's a 10-year-old IP. Destiny 2 is a 7-year-old platform. I think
Mm-hmm.
overall Destiny is not a failure. It's a major success for like what you turn this into.
Yes.
Being a free to play thing, you're not. This isn't World of Warcraft where people are paying a $15 subscription every month. This is people are buying. You're hoping people buy skins and season passes and stuff like that, and then buy annual expansion. So it's like it's a lot harder. Like and plus on top of that, like you can't. This isn't Fortnite. This isn't Warzone. This isn't like other games where like you can just add new skins or like make some changes. Like I'm not saying this is easy, but like make changes to your world like Fortnite does. Like a couple like 3-4 times a year they'll like they'll like hey Spider-Man's in the game now. Now like we built this whole world around how you can web swing shit like that. And that's cool. And that's great. That brings a lot of people in like me and like like they did this whole season of, like Dragon Ball Z, which was awesome. But
Yeah.
it's like this is like a whole thing where like people are expecting much bigger out of this. from Bungie, where like they want a whole new world, they want a new story, whole new cutscenes. Like those fucking Bungie cutscenes are amazing. Like
Yes, they are.
I was talking about Blizzard and Bungie make the best cutscenes in the world. Um, and it's like yeah, the expectations are much higher for those things. And yeah, it's only but the problem is like the expectation, but it's realistically you can only get one a year from them. You can't like if you want something that tier of what you expect the expectations are, you can only get so the whole business model is designed around this one peak in like this like you get maybe you get like a few weeks before it comes out to get people back in get caught up on stuff they missed, and then maybe like another month to 6 weeks, maybe 2 months after that. Yeah, maybe it keeps people around a little bit longer, but overall like it's gonna drop year over year. Like there's no like it's hard to, like I don't understand like the business model like it's hard to keep that sustainable for a super long time for what this
True.
game is being a first person shooter game that is really built on story and like I said like it's free to play. So yeah, like I don't the fact like and they talk about like year over year, yeah, the player count is dropping. um, and you don't have you don't have the next game in place of like this is one of the biggest IPs in gaming today. Like I don't know, probably maybe not
Mm-hmm.
top five, but I'd say top 10 from just player count. You can go look like Matt Piscatella posts like the top 10 most played games every week on PlayStation and Xbox and Steam, and Destiny 2 is usually in there.
Yep.
And it's just like yeah, like you said, like even like you talk about Gables, like if Destiny 2 wasn't dead before, it's like the hardest of the hardcore that are still playing it, they're gonna see this. So it's like, why are they going to stick around? And then there's people like us that might want to jump into it. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
well, why would I want to jump in now? It's a dying platform. Like, it's like this thing is just waiting.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's just it's awful. Like I said, I feel awful for the people there because like they were like it's from everything we're reading here is like Pete Parsons basically just like made a lot of promises that was just impossible to keep to PlayStation. And they at that point in 2021 when this happened, they had a bit of an advantage because the Xbox and PlayStation were both going after them. So they kind of
Yep.
use each other to kind of which is the right thing to do is to raise the price up as much as you can. But so something that did come out of this, Jay Schreier talked about this in his article that Xbox did eventually back out because they looked at them. They said they were a high burn studio. High burning meaning that they spend a lot of money really quickly. So and some of the details that came out is that like basically like they were spending leadership was spending an insane amount of money on like their offices and like apparently one of like the desk in their conference room cost over $4 million. So it's like they were just spent like so the
Oh
money they were having
Jesus.
coming in like just so now the studio P Parsons did admit they were losing money at a certain point here. It's like um,
Oh, I wonder why.
yeah, so it's like yeah, so you're and then like also on top of that like you're a lot of people work remote at this company, so why are you spending an asinine amount of money on a studio that a lot of people, a decent chunk of your staff isn't actually at day to day. And
Right.
like the backtrack to the whole like him buying a bunch of money on cars. It's a guy that probably got hundreds of millions of dollars for the sale, has a bunch of money, but a multi-millionaire spent a lot of money on really expensive things. Like yeah, like it irritates me as like a guy living paycheck to paycheck and shit like that. And like, but like it's a millionaire with a lot of money. That's what like that doesn't bother me. I think what bothers me is like when you read about stories of like he was driving a different car to work every day and like would have his staff like take his staff out to show off his new car, or like literally
Oh.
the weekend before he laid all these people like a bunch of people off, he invited people to his house to show off his car collection. So it's like shit like that. Like that is like these people are gonna be gone. Like like these layoffs don't just happen like on a Monday. Hey, we're
Oh
gonna lay a
my
bunch of people off and then
God.
we lay them off on Wednesday. Like this, like I said, like this shit is planned months in advance. Uh, yeah, so like I said, the most damning thing is not having
Jesus.
um the next game in place. Like that's the most damning thing to me. Like and part of on top of that too is like when PlayStation or Sony bought them, there's a lot of stock options that were given to like the employees that were there at the time, but they had to be there for so long after Sony took over to like it's vested in the
Yep.
employees get to keep those stock options. A big part of those layoffs is now is like those when if an employee leaves, whether they're fired, they quit, whatever, if they're not there X amount of time, I believe for a lot of it, it is like it vests next year. All that money goes back to Bungie. All those stock options go back to Bungie. So
Yep.
it's just the rich keep getting richer here. It's just yeah, like I said, it's these employees like there's nothing they could have done. This game could have been the highest rated game of all time. Uh, Anything short of like selling 10, 15, 20 million copies, I don't think there's anything they could have done. Like you mentioned, Project Payback was one game they had, which was a Destiny game, but it wasn't Destiny 3. Apparently that's what like Mark and Luke were working on, but it's like a third-person shooter. Um, like none of these games are like they have like a game called Project Gummy Bear that I don't really know what that game is yet. I don't know if it's out there
But
yet.
apparently, it's still in development for some reason.
It's project so it's not even have a full name yet, but it's still early in development. That is one of the games that's going to PlayStation. I don't know if that's the one that's with the 40 people that's getting to make a new studio. And what sucks on top of that too is like when Sony bought them, they paid $3.7 billion to buy them. 1 billion of that they paid an extra billion so that Bungie would keep the staff.
Wow. Yeah.
So and they said and publicly stated when Bungie was bought was that we are not laying anybody off, and then here we are, half the studio is gone less than 2 years later. So, yeah.
Sounds like to me that Bungie, I mean, not Bungie, but Sony needs to, if they do take over and stuff like that, they just need to let Pete Parsons go.
Yeah, and I imagine that's probably
It's
like he's probably like, if they lay him, it's one of those things where probably like he gets fired or let go, he gets way more money. He's probably just waiting or like waiting
yeah,
he's waiting probably for
even so, but at the same time, you're stuck between a rock and a hard place because it's like they spent this additional money and stuff on Bungie. They overpaid for Bungie, quintessentially, because of a bidding war between them and Microsoft. But at the same time, it's like they're stuck between a rock and a hard place because you have to either make a tough decision here. It's either let this guy go despite him getting a fucking golden parachute on his way out, or have him remain at this thing and have the same bullshit continue on.
yeah,
That's still going to drain you even more cash in the long run. You know?
yeah, yeah. It's just like I said, it's a I don't want to go on my capitalism rant again, but it's just like this shit that's just really frustrating. It's just and this is why like you see like I think what Blizzard like they finally were able to agree and created a union, and like I think that's like a lot of like people in our generation and like the generations after us, like we've been seeing a lot of the younger people like a lot more pro union, a lot more like calling out corporations, and we're like
Right.
we see that like, and this isn't just like in the video game world, like my company, like every month I'm seeing different places getting shut down, hundreds of people getting laid off every single week or every month at my job, and it's just like I don't know, do I wait and just get my my package from them, my severance package, or do I go? And it's like, and like we saw like John Deere had over $10 billion in profit this year, and they just laid off 12% of their staff. And there's a small town here in Iowa where I'm from, about a couple hours away. It's a small town. They basically shut their plant down. That whole town's gonna be devastated now, because like they shut down the plant, even though they made over $10 billion in profit. Intel just laid off 15,000 people this week. This is a worldwide issue that we're seeing. Is like like we see these companies like recording record profits, but still laying off their staff, and it's just like I don't know. It's like so I don't know. It's like one of those things like it just kind of annoys me sometimes when you like see like especially the older generation. It's like they talk about like complain about the younger generation. I know that's like the older generation, like that's all they're like it's like that's all we're supposed to do is complain about the next generation. But it's like I don't know. I see I see these people like 60, 70 years old, and they like work at these companies. They kill themselves for this company. They they do everything for these companies, and it's like then they lay them off, or like you're out the door and they don't care about you ever again. You kill it. You work there for 50 years, you get some cake, and then you're done. And it's just like I don't know. Like these places.
Yeah, it's a shame when. Exactly, dude. I mean, it's a shame when stuff like that happens. I've seen stuff like that happen too in person too, like at other job places, and it's like it's horrible because it's like you have people that have dedicated a lot of their entire times and their livelihoods to try to make your company worthwhile. And that's why I feel for a lot of the people that have lost their jobs, not just with Bungie, but also with other workplaces, because it's like it's demoralizing because it's like you're thought of more of less like a expendable commodity in terms of the grand scheme of feeling money back into the company,
Yeah.
even if it's like something incredibly minor or something minute.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. And it's just like I get like like I don't get it. Like it's still frustrating. Like, yeah, you talk about like a lot of especially in gaming, like they overhired during the pandemic, and it's like something I talked about at the time. Like I went over this over and over again. It's like like this is only happening. We did those MPDs or canon reports every month on this podcast. It's like this is happening because of COVID. Like next year when we do 2021, 2022, we compare year to year, there's gonna be a drop off because people are like things go back to normal, and like all you see is overhired. It's like how am I the guy saying this and like hey, it's gonna go back to normal, or it's probably gonna be higher, but it's not gonna. Maybe it'll be higher overall, but it's gonna drop. It's gonna be higher than what it was pre-COVID, but not after COVID, like during COVID. And it's like, how am I like knowing this, but yet we have people that get paid tens of millions of dollars a year that don't look at it like that. So I don't know, but I hope this people they figured out, and but it sucks. Nearly 30,000 people in the game industry been laid off since the beginning of 2023, and that's pretty terrible. Um, Sticking with bad news here for 1,000 Gables. This one definitely hurt as a gut punch. Especially from a nostalgia standpoint. And I'm not gonna say like I was like an avid reader of Game Informer. Like I had it for multiple years growing up. I still have I had one for several years because I have that GameStop rewards program. I've had it for several years. But they Friday morning they shut it down. 33 years. Going since 1991. They were 70% of the way through the next issue. And I was just talking about on this podcast last week about reading about the preview they just had for Frank Stone, the casting of Frank Stone, the next Supermassive game, and being really excited for that. And like, I'm still someone that like, I'm not gonna sit there and read every issue front to back or whatever, but like I do read.
No.
I do like, I like I do like, man, like for years now, Gables, we go through the calendar, the video game release calendar every like multiple times a year. We do episodes based around it, and that is the Game Informer release calendar, and it's just gone.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Not only did they close them down, lay everybody off, they nuked the site, and the only thing that's there is like a header, with a small letter, written by AI. So
by AI.
It was an AI generated farewell for them. Yeah. So if you go on Game Informer right now,
yeah, you're right.
Yeah, it's just some words on the screen. And so yeah, you're talking about decades of articles and fucking preview events, interviews, everything, videos, whatever, just gone. And that's that. Like obviously, like I'm not saying it's more devastating, but like I couldn't imagine like being someone that worked there for several, even current or past, like you have so much work there, and like now you're given a chance to like save it, and like they weren't even like, given the opportunity to like finish like the magazine they were currently working on, the issue they were currently working on.
Right.
One employee was in London on a preview event when this news broke. He was on a plane going to London when the news broke of this. Yes, so he landed and found out he didn't have a job. And then like
oh shit,
had a flight. He flew back today. So yeah, he's like, cool. I just got off an 8-hour flight and I realized I don't have a job anymore. Then he had a flight. Then he spent all day today traveling and finally just got home tonight. So yeah, it's just it's just frustrating. It's devastating. It's like they did some cool shit for a long time. I remember growing up, like they had some of the coolest fucking covers out there.
Yeah.
Obviously, I think about like that Batman Arkham City one from like 2011. It was awesome. I was just going back and like looking at a lot of the old covers, like the Horizon one. I remember like getting them in the mail, and like I was a Nintendo Power kid growing up. I had that for like a long time. But like I did have there's multiple years there where I had a Game Informer like when I was a kid, and then like I said when I was an adult, like I do have my GameStop reward thing, program, whatever. And that is a major selling point to that thing is, hey, you get an issue, you get a subscription to Game Informer. And like what sucks is like I don't know, who knows, like maybe Game Informer was not a profitable company anymore, who knows.
Right.
But the problem is like it's been exclusively behind the GameStop reward program. The only way to get their issues was either go on the website, the GameStop website, and then buy their issues for like $7 a piece, but then you'll have to pay shipping. Like the shipping was more than the actual magazine cost to get it, or you had to like pay $25 a year for GameStop reward program. So it's like they didn't have the opportunity to even prove that like how viable they were. The only thing that they got was back in June they finally allowed them to separately. You can sign up for you get $20 for a year of Game Informer, or $35 for 2 years. They put out 2 issues, and they're gone. And there is GameStop has said nothing about how to get refunds. So like,
wow,
like
so people just pretty much got screwed here and there.
Yes. It's just like I said, it's devastating. Like it's from like a nostalgia standpoint. I was just going back and like looking up old PDFs of like I said issue covers and I was like looking at some of the articles and stuff like that I could find online. Um, yeah, I think just as a
You
fan,
know,
go ahead, Gilles, go ahead.
it just dawned on me and stuff. Game Informer was really the last major like gaming magazine publisher still releasing physical issues and stuff like that for gaming, even in the digital space. I mean, they had options for digital issues as well,
That's what
but
I got. I got digital. Yeah,
that's just so crazy to think about because now it's like we're witnessing like the gaming print media like pretty much like go extinct, barring like other like say projects and stuff from other people. Like say there are some independent like gaming magazines that do pop up here and there and stuff for some of their aspects based upon what type of things they've earned from like Kickstarter or whatever in terms of making certain issues based upon certain goals. But what makes this even more significant is like Game Informer. Yeah, it's been one of the mainstay gaming magazine like publishers and stuff since like the early '90s, back in the time where gaming magazines were very like prevalent before the advent of the digital stuff taking over like in the mid 2000s and stuff. So it's like you had them, you had EGM, Game Pro, you had freaking like even some spin-off magazines like Expert Gamer and stuff, and like Nintendo Power, like PlayStation Magazine. Towards the early 2000s, you had Xbox Magazine, you had like Sega doing their own various magazines and stuff. And just seeing a lot of that rich history and a lot of things that evolved from over those past like 30 some odd years, and then seeing it today where it's pretty much gone, it's so unbelievable. But at the same time, it's been leading towards this direction now for
yeah,
quite a long while. That being stated, I do have nostalgia for Game Informer stuff too. I mean, I used to get their issues when I was still like a pro card member and stuff at GameStop before they eventually closed their store location here, like around back 4 years ago, around close to close to COVID stuff. So it's like, oh god, I remember looking at a bunch of their different magazine covers. I mean, the one for Skyward Sword was pretty cool. The one for their top 100 issues,
oh
like the
yeah,
top 100 games and stuff, their
yeah, the
issues.
100th issue. Yeah,
I have two of them still, and one of them is the cover that it shows like the protagonist from Grand Theft Auto 3, and I think another one has a picture of like Samus, I think as
I think that
well,
was
one of the
Metroid Prime 1 or 2. I just saw that when I
possibly.
was looking at it. Um, when I was going through, I
Yes.
was looking at, I looked at like, man, it's like, man, there's some great covers, like even like in the '90s, because like I didn't really wasn't really a hardcore gamer until like the early like probably like 2000, 2001. But like just going back and like I'm the same way where like I remember like going to like GameStop when I was a kid, and they'd always have the Game Informer sitting right by the
Yep.
register and stuff. And I remember I'd buy one every now and again. Like when my parents would give me one, you know, and if I didn't have a subscription and stuff. I remember like when like having that issue, like when the PS2 was on the cover, when the PS2 was like
Yep.
first revealed, and like reading all the information. I remember there was one where like when they first revealed the Game Boy Advance, and like reading about that, and they were like saying it's more powerful than a PlayStation. And I'm like, blew my fucking mind, like how like all that, just being like a kid, like, oh my god, it's more powerful than the PlayStation. Like that's insane,
And then
in the
only to
palm of my
find out
hand.
you get it. And yeah, dude, it's like only to find out like what you buy it is like, oh, this is like a little bit more powerful than the Super Nintendo, and some
Yeah,
things are compromised, but it's okay.
yeah, like, but you're just like, we're dumb kids, we don't care. In our minds
Yeah,
though, it's like the blast processing, and like, like it doesn't actually mean anything. uh
buzzwords.
yeah, just buzzwords. Yeah, but it was just like, I don't know. Yeah, like definitely that nostalgia of that. And I was just like being a kid, like, like you have to go to the grocery store with your parents, and they just like, all right, cool, you go walk around the video game section, and then you go to the magazine section, and like just grabbing
Oh,
a Game
dude.
Informer and just like flipping through it as a kid, and like reading the articles and stuff like that. Like that was all, like that electronic gaming monthly, like those were like I had the Nintendo Power subscription, but like that was like those were like
Dude,
the two Game Informer, and that was the two that I go to.
I have so much nostalgia from back in the day where I was like literally like a little kid, right? Like not just like a little kid or something. I'm like a preteen. My mom and dad be all in the grocery store, like trying to get some stuff, like food for the night and stuff. And here I am, like, yeah, 8 to 10 year old Gables or something like that in the magazine section, picking up like an issue of tips and tricks and stuff like that, looking
Yes.
through a bunch of the various magazines and like seeing like, oh, there's an advertisement here for WWF Attitude, or hey, here's like a little like hint or guide here to get through a dungeon in Ocarina of
Yes.
Time,
Yeah,
or hey,
you get stuck in a section.
or
You go
hey,
find the guide for like that one area you're stuck in.
and then you see a cover issue of like Expert Gamer, and all of a sudden you have the wrestler like Sable or someone on the front cover or something like
Yeah,
that, or you have like Nintendo Power, like certain characters or something pop up right on here. It's just those times were so magical to a lot of us growing up as like inside the gaming sphere because it's like it felt more custom, like it felt like more personable and stuff. It's like, okay, this is how I'm learning about this game for the first time, or hey, this is something where I can look forward to for the next year and plan ahead of time of okay, am I going to save my money from mowing lawns and like doing odd jobs and stuff for my folks, or like getting good grades and stuff. This is the games I'm going to look forward to getting and earning. And just seeing that legacy just finally come to an end, it's just kind of surreal to a lot of us, but also it's like the thing where, you know what, we kind of eventually knew this was going to happen, but
yeah,
like the other great gaming print media stuff before then, I mean, it finally passed, you know? I mean,
yeah,
look at it this way, Nintendo Power, they ended their publication around 2012.
yeah,
And it's still crazy to me 12 years later and that's gone. I mean, a lot of the other various like gaming magazines that are predominant discontinued. I mean, you still have some that have like various like some websites and stuff, but not as big as what they were, you
yeah.
know.
Like there was legitimately like one of the biggest like subscription magazines in the world. Like just compared to everything, like they were one of the like
Mm,
up there with like People Magazine and stuff. So it does suck, and it's like yeah, it's just and who knows like could they have like pivoted and became something different and like found a way to stick around in the internet age and where we are today? Who knows? But it's like I think with GameStop and the way they are is like they would rather have it be tied to their reward program than actually like allow them to give them an opportunity to become something different. It
yeah.
sucks because like yeah, GameStop is shitty for a lot of reasons, and it's like yeah, like GameStop is a dying company, um, and we know it's all we've known for over a decade now that like this thing
Yep.
it's blockbuster. It's eventually gonna be gone, and I've defended GameStop in the sense of like I still rely on trading in games to pay for a lot of games I play today, so I defend them in that sense, but there is value to me in that and to a lot of people. But yeah, like
Mm,
it just sucks. Like that was like to me like Game Informer was like the one thing of like positivity that GameStop had to their name, and they threw it like it's gone, and then like just the way they treated them on the way out of like they shut the site down and they used fucking Chat GPT to write a goodbye letter. It's like man, you couldn't even like give them the opportunity to like write their own goodbye. 33 years of history, 360 something magazines. You couldn't give them like
mm.
let them have the opportunity to say their own goodbye instead of just going online and finding out they're doing jobs anymore. So um,
Yeah.
pretty shitty here. But let's try to move on to I don't know if it's positive, but it's not super negative. But so Tom Warren at The Verge reported that Avowed was going to get delayed to early next year. Not that there was anything wrong with the game, but just that it's this fall is becoming very crowded. Crowded from like a video game standpoint, but also from an Xbox standpoint. Um, and it kind of got there, and uh, actually could turn out to be the case. That is actually what's happening here. Xbox did put a tweet out Friday afternoon. So this is from Xbox's Twitter account here. So many games coming as such. We're moving about to February 18th, 2025 to give players backlog some breathing room. Stay tuned for blah, blah, blah. Basically, just look for their you do a they're gonna have a Xbox is gonna be at Gamescom at the end of at the end of August. And they did show a picture here of these are all the games from first party Xbox are coming for the rest of the year. So they have some of the stuff isn't is like expansion stuff. So we have it's really small on my screen. We have World of Warcraft August 26th, Age of Mythology September
Hmm.
4th, Aura History Untold September 24th, Diablo expansion is on August 6th, Black Ops 6 is October 25th. Microsoft Flight Simulator is November, is that 11th? It's November sometime. And then on top of that, you still have Indiana Jones, Starfield, Shattered Space, and Towerborn all coming for the rest of the year. And that doesn't include like uh, on top of that, big part of that too. It sounds like is was like Frostpunk 2 is coming, and
Hmm.
then what the hell is the game that just got delayed? Stalker 2 is coming
Stalker
November
2.
20th. Yeah, so the originally at one point Xbox put out a blog post. They actually put November 12th as a release date for Avowed. Um, that was probably the date. And then yeah, but it's one of those things where like yeah, take your time on this one. Like it sounds like it's done, but like hey, it gives them maybe a few more months to maybe squash some bugs, but also like kind of spreads out the Xbox. Instead of putting out a million games like and kind of flooding your own marketplace, like not only are you competing with other games in the fall, busiest time of the year for games come out. You're gonna you're gonna kind of dilute yourself. So hey, kick it off strong. February we got hopefully Avowed's gonna be a really good game. So what about you?
You know what? I look at this more of a positive thing because, for one, it's them realizing that they're overcrowding if they have Avowed release instead of that time frame. That on top of any other type of game releases during that initial time period from any other company, it's going to overshadow some bits of what people had interest, say, for playing Avowed. So at least early next year, it gets its own breathing space that we know of at this point.
Yeah,
But
hopefully.
I'm hoping that Avowed is a good game. I mean, come on. It's not all doom and gloom inside the gaming industry. We still got a whole bunch of promising games that are coming out and a
Yeah.
bunch of things that are still down in the pipeline that we're very much looking forward to. At the same point, Avowed is like one of those games where I'm kind of curious about, but yet I still want to see how well it's going to do for like review scores and stuff.
Yeah. I love Obsidian. Big fan of them. And yeah, it would have been really upsetting like to see it kind of come like almost get Titanfall 2 in a sense of just like
Mhm.
coming out and like it's a brand new IP coming out in the busiest time of year. Like I said, fighting with a bunch of other Xbox games and other major games that are usually this time of year at the end of the year. It's either a big time studio putting out maybe a big IP or it's known IPs coming at this time of year. So like putting out is I don't think it could have done well. And I look at Avowed more as like a souped up double A game. And yeah, I'm not expecting game of the year out of this thing, but like I'm expecting like at least like a solid, really good game. A contender, top 10 game at the end of the year type game is what I'm up to, looking at here. So yeah, give it its own chance to breathe. Like yeah, brand new IP coming out from, I don't think Obsidian's not known to the masses. So yeah, that being a new IP coming out, especially coming exclusive to Xbox and PC as well. But I don't know how well that thing got done. So hopefully it comes out February 18th. Hopefully obviously like hey it's coming out and then the next thing you know there's like we don't know a lot of next year. I feel like next year is gonna be I wouldn't be shocked if we get a lot of release dates late next year because everybody's so scared of GTA
Mm.
6, and so it's like we're not gonna plan anything until GTA gives us the timeline. So I wouldn't be shocked if because I think like 2025 is looking up like could be another solid year. Like you said, Gables, like it's been like it's been the quote of the last 18 months or more of the gaming industry. It's the worst time to work in the industry, but the best time to be a gamer. So because last I feel like 2023 was like maybe the greatest year of all time, and 2024 has been a maybe not great on the it's been solid for like double A and indie games, but like it's definitely been like this definitely feels like a year of like everybody's reloading for like the big games coming out, except for maybe
Right.
Xbox.
It definitely seems like a stark like decline in AAA games as opposed to like say the last year.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's like what you're saying though. It's a bunch of reload stuff to make sure that come in 2025 onward and stuff, we're going to get hopefully more interesting games
yeah,
that'll come out during those initial time periods.
yeah.
But yeah, yeah, that's pretty much
Okay.
it.
All right, well, moving on here to our last story. This is from Chris Scullion at VGC here. We got Nintendo's financial reports for Q1 of 2024. So this is from April 1st to June 30th of this year. So they did say that like they knew it was gonna be down, compared to the
Mm.
year over year. But it sounds like it seems like it was definitely a lot worse than they thought it would be. So operating profits are down 71% year over year. Obviously, you look at last May through April through June, they had Tears of the Kingdom in there. They had a
Yep.
pretty big spike with the sounds like the Tears of the Kingdom Switch they put out was also a pretty good boom for them as well. Obviously, you didn't really have that this year, or you didn't have that this year, so a big part of it. And also on top of that, you didn't have the Mario movie, so that plays a part of it. But like I said, it still sounds like it's worse than they thought it would be. Switch sales are down 47%. Like I said, once again, probably a lot of that Tears of the Kingdom related. Software sales are down 42%. Um, they did still sell 2.1 million Switches. They are now at 143.42 million, 10.6 million behind the DS, 15.28 behind the PS2. Um, like I mentioned, yeah, Mario movie and Tears of the Kingdom were this time last year. They still expect to sell 13.5 million for this fiscal year. So they still have to sell their 11.4. I don't know how they expect to get there unless they have. I feel like we know everything they got for um, the at least the rest of this calendar year. We don't
Right.
know. We don't know about. I think weather in Donkey Kong in January. We don't really know anything for February or March. But I'm not expecting too much there. The only thing I could think that might give them a little bit of a boost is there is that Zelda Switch Lite that they put out
Yep.
for the new Zelda game. Um, some details we got here though is Paper Mario Thousand Year Door sold 1.76 million units as of June 30th,
Oh.
and Luigi's Mansion 2 came out June 27th. So only had 4 days on this quarterly financials, but it sold 1.19 million. And then also
Wow.
Endless Ocean Luminous was not reported. They only report games that sold over a million in their quarter. So that's very telling because there's been a lot of quarters where they've had like over a dozen games that sell over a million units. So it's very telling they only had two. And someone did report though that also talked about that Origami King that came out, I believe in 2021. That quarter it came out, it sold nearly 3 million units in its first quarter, and it came out I think in like May of 2020 or 2021. So you're talking about like comparing a Paper Mario game from a few years ago to this one, about half the sales. And I do wonder if part of that is the fact that we had Mario RPG just was that November. We had
Yeah.
Thousand Year Door, then we got Luigi's Mansion 2, and then on top of that we got Brothership coming in November. So I wonder maybe it's like we talked about this time. It's like we went from like nothing forever to we getting three in less than a year from Nintendo. So I wonder if maybe it's a case. And also on top of that, I think we're in the 8th year of the Switch. So I wouldn't be shocked if like I don't know, like I think it's a normal thing that the closer you get to like the end of a cycle, like the less inclined you are to want to buy games for that console.
Yep. I think it's a mixture of different things. I don't think it's really like a Mario RPG fatigue per se and stuff. I think it's mostly doing because the Switch is in its 8th year and stuff, and people want to know what the next system is and what they're going to invest into in terms of game stuff. That they're looking at the Nintendo Switch, and even though a lot of people have enjoyed the Nintendo Switch now for like now over 8 years, that system is now overplayed. A lot of people have lost interest. They're either going to other ventures and stuff. And some of the games that are put out this year, I mean, they're not like, say, the type of games that people would want to, say, invest in a lot of, like, say, time or money to want to play. And I'm talking about, like, certain remakes that people may not have any nostalgia for or may not have any interest. Let's say, like, the Mario vs. Donkey Kong game that released this year. That was a remake of the Game Boy Advance classic.
Yeah,
It did sell decently, but not maybe what people were hoping for. I
didn't
mean,
break a
Super Princess
million.
Peach. I mean, that Princess Peach game that came out after it and stuff like that. That one was intended for like younger audiences and stuff, but yet it wasn't going to be that de facto killer app in terms of sustaining things for like that initial first 6 months. I mean, Paper Mario, Thousand Year Door remake, that was awesome. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of people had a chance to play through Thousand Year Door for the first time or re-experience it. But yeah, it sold over a million. But what we're seeing now, and what has been the case now for the past few years, is a lot of that Switch effect sort of thing, where everybody, it seems like if ever you put a game on the Switch itself, it's magnified like ad nauseum in terms of the sales wise is because of how the popular the Switch is and like how, everything needs to come on the Switch and this and that. Now we're seeing the aspect of because Nintendo's in its 8th year of its console, its own first party games that aren't like say major contenders like say a Smash or a Zelda or a main Metroid or a main Mario game. If those are not present and it's just like subsidiary spin-off games, you're not going to see nearly as much interest because people are like, yeah. That's okay. I'll just wait for the next big Mario game or something, or with
Mm.
Luigi's Mansion 2. Okay, that's a remake of a game I played like 10 years ago or something like that. I don't care too much about it. Then it's like, just some aspect where people just want something new. They're just clamoring for the next thing from Nintendo at this point.
Yeah, and like we talk about, like we're definitely the hardcore of the gaming audience. So, but like I think you do like there are like consumers are out there like they are probably privy enough to like the fact that, like, hey, this is an 8-year-old console. We're not getting the best foot forward from Nintendo right now. And like they publicly
Yep.
mentioned the fact of making another one. Yeah, like, and you look at some of the remakes that we're getting for the Switch this year, and it's like they're not even like remaking like top tier Nintendo, like old Nintendo games. Like we're getting like
No.
mediocre Game Boy Advance and 3DS games and Wii games at this point. Like we're not even, yeah, like we love Paper Mario Thousand Year Door, but I wonder if that's definitely like more of a that's definitely like, that's our generation. Like
Well,
mid
absolutely.
30s to like early 40 year old people. Like
And
that's their game.
that's pretty much like the best thing in terms of the remaster that they put out this year, in my honest opinion.
Yeah,
But
their best game of the year for
and
sure.
yeah, so far, I mean, they're
Tell
pretty
Zelda.
much going all in for the next system and stuff, and who knows what type of surprises they got in store for when that next console launches. But all we know now is at the near the end of this year and stuff, we're going to have a new Zelda game that's going to be coming out in that 2D sort of style, similar to Link's Awakening that they had remastered on the Switch.
Yep.
But other than that, though, I mean, we're pretty much in limbo until they
Yeah.
announce the next system.
I feel like we've been in limbo for a long time now with this Switch. So,
Yeah.
and you can tell with the Switch effect, I do wonder if like a lot of that has to do with the fact that like we're seeing a lot more handhelds out there now. Like the Steam Deck is getting more and
Yep.
more popular. There's like the ROG Ally and stuff like that. So like, maybe PlayStation Portable to a lesser extent too, maybe. But like, I mean, I don't know if like I'm not saying they're gonna like kill it, but like it is competition, and like those things are getting more and more popular, a lot more available. So I do think a lot of people
Hmm.
out there like that. We talk about like the Switch kind of killed off what was left of the Vita. I'm not saying it's going to
Yep.
kill off this, but I think like I do wonder if maybe the Steam Deck and stuff like that is kind of maybe killing off a little bit of that shine of like people would like buy those third party games, like those indie games for the Switch, and like, well, I'll just get on my Steam Deck instead. So, um, one last
Yeah.
interesting tidbit here I saw. Um, Breath of the Wild outsold Tears of the Kingdom by 10,000 units last quarter. So that was kind of a
Jeez.
that was kind of
The original Breath of the Wild outsold Tears of the Kingdom's last quarter by
a,
10,000 units.
yeah, I think it was like 190 to 200,000. So, yeah.
Hmm.
Um, but I was good. Some other news this week. This whole podcast this week, we actually had like, it's been like 6 weeks of like no news, and the plan, like, we actually had a plan like on Sunday, I think it was, to like, let's just do like a 360 Xbox 360 like funeral, and then like figures like we go in like a week before we finally have a plan in place for a podcast topic, and then like a million things happen. So figures that's
Yep.
how it works out. But we'll talk about it next week. That's definitely something
Yeah.
I definitely want to. That's something definitely want to talk about here. Moving on though to some other news. Xbox is working with Capcom to fix the MT framework, is what it's called. That is like the issue. Like we're seeing a lot of old like Capcom fighting games not coming to Xbox. Um, not a technical guy. I don't really understand what that means, but that's heads up. Like we keep seeing all that. Like Capcom keeps announcing these new ports and stuff like that of old fighting games, and I was at one point like no Xbox or something was trending on Twitter or something.
Mm.
This is something to do with it, and Xbox is working to get that fixed. So probably a smart idea to do that. So
All I know is in terms of a lot of those remasters or like remakes of like not just remakes but like a lot of the different ports that Capcom is doing of some of those fighting games to other platforms and stuff. I mean, for some of them, they are kind of basing certain versions, let's say like the Xbox 360 or PS3 versions, and especially for like Marvel's Capcom 2, they are the part of the reason why that they are going through with certain like aspects of it, say on like the PS4 or Steam or the Nintendo Switch and stuff, is because those copies and stuff, they're not like those ports are not like, let's say, missing any type of like frames of data or something like that. Because instead of like certain fighting games, if you're missing like specific like animation frames or something like that, it can mess up different things like timing or the overall feel of like how you're playing a match. For Xbox, a lot. especially when it came to some of the emulation stuff, like say for CV, like a CVS Chaos or something like that, or SVC Chaos. That's right. For SVC Chaos, one of the reasons why it wasn't announced like for the Xbox systems initially is because those ports are pretty much from the versions that were released on like console generations prior. Like for example, for the PS4 and stuff, that was pretty much kind of done like from say like the PS2's version and stuff, and kind of like certain aspects of it was brought up to like modern systems and stuff. Whereas the X for the Xbox Series things, it would have been like from the original Xbox stuff, which there were issues with that version in general. Like I'm not entirely 100% sure about the extent of every single detail, but I do know for a fact that a lot of the issues that are popping up in terms of like bringing some of these versions of these Capcom fighting games to Xbox is because of there's just some emulation issues or some like issues in terms of frame data for some games, or there's issues with certain like structure things where they have to go a little bit more in depth in order to try to bring it onto these Xbox systems. It's not impossible, mind you. It's just a lot of time, a lot of money, and a lot of different things that they have to try to plan in a lot for Capcom in terms of getting them on the Xbox platforms.
Yeah. Um, Next up here, the Mario Sonic Olympic series is done. Apparently, the Olympics wanted NFT games instead. So there is an NFT mobile game out there if you're interested. Um, but I'm not going to pretend like this is a major loss. I feel like the Mario Sonic series has got more coverage this week than it's gotten since the first time the first one came out like 16
Yeah,
years ago. These games are pretty bad to middling, and like I don't even think the majority of them even sold like, broke 1 million copies after a while. Like I know the first couple on Wii sold super duper well, but like the Wii
yeah,
U and Switch ones were not massively successful at all. So not a real loss here in the gaming world, but that was kind of interesting. I brought it up a couple months ago. I'm I'm surprised we haven't heard about that yet. And then like the direct came away, and I'm like still didn't hear about it, and that's what came out here. So next up here, Dragon Age Veilguard. They did reveal that the release date would be announced this month in August, probably at Gamescom. And Jeff Grubb did report the last he heard was October, so that makes me happy because that will probably be my game of Extra Life if that is the case. Um, and then last but not least here, the Activision Blizzard created a new small team that's going to work on basically making like indie games almost for Xbox to try to put out more games more often on like Game Pass stuff like that, which is kind of hilarious that they're doing that and they just like closed down fucking like multiple studios that were doing things just like that. But yeah,
yep,
anyways, hopefully that works out. Hope that is something like I don't know. It's something I think we talk about a lot. Is like it'd be great if like more like more of these bigger studios focus on like putting out smaller games with maybe like a small 15 20 team development team because we see games all the time. We see games like Balatro and Braid and shit like that blow up and it's like one or two, three people that make that thing. Also, Gable, did you hear about Braid? They had that anniversary collection that came out, or the anniversary edition, whatever came out in May. So Jonathan Blow, who created Braid,
right.
no, like great game developer, overall asshole. He did an interview and someone asked him how it sold. He said like dog shit. So um, I don't know. He said that he's well, obviously like it's funny because like I don't know he's kind of a dickhead. Um, but it does suck because he mentioned though he's like have trouble like keeping people around full time, which is awful. But it's like you put 2 games out since 2008, so I don't know. Maybe you're small in development team, so maybe put out more games more often. I don't know. That's where I don't know. I don't know. I'm not maybe I'm wrong there, but it's just like I don't know. Like I love Braid. Braid was like obviously I think that was like the original like major indie game, for like the masses.
Right.
It does suck, 'cause, like, but it's like also like, like I think what made that game like well, not only was a fantastic game, but it came out like that was like the first major game to come out for Summer Arcade. And I like kicked off indie games, but it's like it's like I don't know. It just sucks. But I don't know. Also couldn't happen to a nicer guy. So yeah. But anyways, Gables, let's move on to what we've been playing. Do you want to go first? Or you want me to go first?
I'll have you go first, Tyler.
Okay, Gables, like I mentioned at the top of the show, when I remember who told me about fucking Persona 3 Reload, oh, it's like 60 hours. I'm gonna fight them, and when you have children, I'm gonna fight them too. I'm gonna find them and I'm gonna beat the shit out of them. I'm gonna be like, what was that? Remember the episode of South Park where oh god, who was the guy who's like fighting around the world? And he had the little tugboat.
Oh,
The guy from
oh my
Gladiator.
God, Russell Crowe.
Russell Crowe. I'm gonna be like that guy. I'm gonna be fighting around the world. I was like, "What did you say to me?" I'm gonna be. Yeah, I'm just gonna I got my little boat tugger, and we're gonna go around. I'm gonna fight people around the world. It's gonna be all of your fucking children and ancestors, because I am 73 hours in Gables, and I just got to December. So and I don't know
Hey.
exactly what it is, but I know it goes to late January at the least. So I
Yes.
got a ways to go. So what the fuck? I really like this game still. I'm definitely like I'm a lot more hot and cold on it than I was. I've definitely changed what I'm doing. I mentioned like earlier that like I was like going to Tartarus twice. I would do like the very beginning, then I'd go right before like the next main story thing kicked off, and like get all the missing people. And now I just wait till like right before the next like major event happens, so you can't like and I just wait till all the missing people are reported to go find them all in Tartarus. That way I don't have to go back and do it twice because I want to get all the missing people because you get a lot more resource. You get a lot of like really good resources and stuff come from like finding missing people. Anyways, so like that saves a lot of time because definitely the deeper you get into the game, the Tartarus sections, which Tartarus is like people know is like that is the like that's the section like that's like the dungeon area of the game. And the first couple times you go in there, it's like 15 floors, and you can go through a floor. If like I'm doing all the battles because I want to make sure I'm leveling up properly. Um, and like I'm doing all the battles and like the first couple times it's like 15 floors, and then you get it's like 25 floors, 30 floors. And it's like so it's like taking you
Yep.
3-4 hours to get through a whole section, and the second time you go through it, it's faster because you've already fought all of the bosses. So it does take off
Yep.
like a decent chunk of time, but it's still multiple hours. So I was like, all right. So like the last couple like go arounds, I've just done it. I waited till like right at the very end of like that chapter to like do the Tartars. But what kind of sucks is like because like doing the Tartars also broke up doing a lot of the social activities, right? I really enjoy doing, but now I'm doing like multiple hours worth of just doing social activities. Like it just kind of like kills the flow of the game sometimes. Where like I'm playing like 2-3 hours to like like a month like just going to doing like social activities, doing all the story content, all that will take a few hours to do, and then on top of that, having to do the Tartarus, that's there are a few hours on top of that right there. So like, but it was nice at least having a break in the middle of that to do the Tartarus, and then like all right, cool, do the second half there. Um, and like I'm at the point now where as well where like I've maxed out the social links of like the people I really cared about doing, and now I'm
Mhm.
just kind of doing the ones of like the characters I don't really give a shit about, and I'm like, so I've definitely like all like and I found a couple of other characters like I just kind of missed throughout the game. So and like a couple of them have been okay, but it's like I did the one where like the guy like one of the students is like in a relationship with his teacher, and like it sucks too because like to keep like the like the friendship growing to max out the social link, you have to agree with them, and it's like I have to like tell this guy to keep like sleeping with his teacher, or like, hey, tell this guy to go like to ask his teacher out, or like I to like make the social link with like the 6-year-old girl at the park that I met. I have to keep bringing her candy. Like this feels wrong. Um, but it's very weird. But like I did have a no shit moment where I have 3 different girlfriends in the game, and there was a moment in the game where like they all got in a room together with you, and you're like, oh shit. So I was able to work my way out of that one. Luckily that one worked out in my favor. So I was talking about last week with Gables where I'm like, what happens if like you have like you tell like 3 girls you love them, you're like, oh, that's gonna bite you in the ass. I was able to work my way out of it so far. I don't know how it's gonna go. But Gables is dying over here.
That's fucking hysterical. You just decide, okay, I'm just gonna see what happens today, and all of a sudden the game puts you in a situation where all 3 of them are in together.
I was like, oh shit! Like I was like really concerned when like one walked in. I was talking to him like, this is weird. Like, why is this like? It was like an automatic like story thing like that triggered. I'm like, okay, that was all right. Talking to Yuka here and like, oh shit, Chidori's in the room now. What the fuck? Oh shit, here comes Yukari. Uh oh. Like they started talking like I'm walking them all home. I'm like, oh no. Yeah. Anyways, it was a very funny moment. But yeah. I really like I said, I love the main story. I love the main characters. This and definitely like still like I said like last week where like I think last week when I talked about it I was like 40 something hours in, and I think I just got in September, and I was talking about I really felt like late July, early August where like the game actually really kicked off to like the story of the game kicked off like, and like which is nuts to say, and I know it's like it's a Japanese game, so like yeah, that's typically how they go. Um, but like, yeah, overall, like I'm still having a really good time with it. Just definitely at stretches that time where I'm like, man, like, especially right now where I feel like I'm just kind of like I'm doing these relationships with these people I don't like really don't care about anymore. Like these are like the people like I interacted with earlier in the game. I just kind of like ignored the rest of the way to like and like focus on the ones I cared about. And now I'm just like, well, I've done the ones I care about. I've maxed out all of the like I maxed out all the benefits of like interacting with your parties. Like you can do like side activities with them and it unlocks
Yeah.
things that help them in battle. And I've done all of those. Like I said, like I maxed like 4 or 5 characters in the game. And I like those stories a lot. I like where they go. And those really paid off really, really well. I think they do a really great job of like the the characters that they create, like at least like the main ones, and like there's other ones like it feels like they focus on more. And then there's like there's like the guy that eats too much and that hangs out in the park, and there's like the asshole guy that like the infomercial guy on your television. Like I have to keep giving him money for some reason, and he's obviously like stealing money from me, but like to keep the relationship growing, I have to keep giving him money, even though I know it's I'm being robbed basically. Like that's a weird one. Like there's like the old man in the bar, and I'm a 6-year-old child like like at a bar like night. Like what the fuck? Like it's so weird. Um, but I'm really man, I'm really digging like the main story as far as like it's going some places. Like I'm surprised how dark it gets. Like I know it's like a dark like this is a game where
Yes.
like kids unlock power by shooting themselves in the fucking head. And like didn't really I don't really understand like why that's necessary overall still. But like I feel like the overall theme of the story and like I kind of like you kind of get it early in the game like the theme of the story, but like I don't want to spoil for people that play because I know it's a older game, but this is a remake that came out this year, so like people like me probably didn't play this game before, but like the theme of the game of like what's going on like some like major like things that happen in this game that like totally alter things that you've done in the game or like your main
Yes.
cast with you. They happen multiple times just in this past week since like like the 20 plus hours or so I put into it. Like just like what happens here is like things I didn't think they'd go. Like this is like I said, it's like a darker game, but it's also been like very lighthearted, and you don't think it's gonna like do some crazy twists and turns. And no, it actually goes some pretty crazy dark places. And yeah, I'm like overall I'm still liking the game quite a bit, but like it is like I mentioned last week where I was like I'm 40 something hours in, and I'm like I still have like almost half of a game to go here. It's like what's the like either things are going to speed up real fast or this game isn't 60 70 hours. Um, and obviously it's not, but I'm going to keep playing it. I think I'll probably have beaten next week. I'll talk about when I'm all done with it. But yeah, like
Hmm.
overall I'm still liking it. But man, it is a much bigger investment than I thought it'd be. And um, like I said, like if I wasn't injured at work right now, injured stuck at home after getting hurt at work, uh, I probably would have bounced off this game a long time ago. But like I'm happy overall. I'm not. But it's definitely one of those games
Dude.
like this is like definitely one of those like we talk a lot. Like sometimes it's like a game that just hits you in the perfect time and place, and this is that game for me.
Yep.
But that's pretty much all I'm playing. Gables, what about you?
All right. Like I've alluded to at the beginning part of the show, I had been heavily involved in playing the Capcom Fighting Collection this past week, and my God, dude, I have gotten hooked on trying to unlock every single trophy inside of this damn game. So it finally hit me once again. Like it, this happens now like little bits than it would before. Like if I want to get into a groove of trying to get a platinum trophy in something, I want to try to just feel a game out and stuff. Is it obtainable? Can I do it? Like there be some grinds involved, and yeah, definitely playing this collection of games. There is some grinding involved in trying to earn this type of like say every trophy inside of it. So for the Capcom fighting game collection, it's like it's consists of 10 games. Like you'll have like the Hyper Street Fighter 2 Anniversary Edition, which is basically the version that released instead of a collection set on the PS2 alongside what was packed in Street Fighter 3 Third Strike and also Street Fighter 2 the animated movie was also on the disc itself that you could watch at any time, which I thought was kind of hilarious in that aspect back then. But on top of that, you also have like Super Gem Fighters and stuff, which is sort of like a whole chibi like fighting game thing involved with like all these various like crazy like stages and all these characters from like different Capcom games, including like different references to different Capcom characters. Like you have one of the fighters that will all of a sudden transform into Mega Man, just do like a Buster shot or something like that on you, or you could actually look at the background. You'll see characters that say like Blanca or like Bison or like Sagata or like other Street Fighter fighters, like say Birdie or some eating like udon noodles or some in a ramen shop or something like this. But other than that, though, it's like there's other ones like say Super Puzzle Fighter 2. There's I kid you not, like 5 different versions of Darkstalkers, which includes the first three plus the two in Japan that were never released outside the US. And then obviously Red Earth and Cyberbots. Both of those ones, which I played a lot of the week before. But let's just say this past week has been me spending a lot of time on not just playing through Cyberbots and Red Earth, but actually completing those games. As of this recording, I have completed 5 games out of the 10 that has been on this collection. And how you do the 100% collection stuff is like one of the trophies requires you to play through and beat every single one of the games, which I've done that. I've actually beaten all 10 of the games inside there, which you can do by just choosing a character and going through the arcade mode, like say once, which doesn't take too long unless you try to do it at a higher difficulty, like say 4 to maybe like 8 stars or something like that. But I wouldn't recommend that. I mean, if you're trying to just speed through certain processes and stuff, I would recommend anybody that has this Capcom Fighting Collection, if you want to at least give it a honest playthrough, just set it to like say it like maybe at minimum maybe 3 stars. If that's too difficult to you, then maybe at 1 star or something. You're still going to earn some bit of accomplishments and stuff if you're going to do that. You're not going to earn a lot of the different accomplishments if you just set everything to 0 stars and stuff like that, because at that point you're just kind of playing it as sort of like an like an automatic easy win mode or something like that. So I only recommend that if you've beaten the games like legitimately before trying something like that. And this is especially true when it comes to say the Darkstalker games and like the freaking Street Fighter games, because you have that on the default setting of like 4 stars, and you're gonna get frustrated rather quick because this is classic retro arcade fighter style of difficulty to where you're going to have a lot of CPUs input reading you. You're going to have a lot of difficulty spikes at weird moments because those games were structured to suck quarters out of kids in the arcades back in the day. And on top of that, it's one of those frustrating aspects to where even if you're good with a character and you know exactly what to look for and you know what to do, you're still going to get outperformed by the CPU because they do cheat. They absolutely do cheat. They'll cut certain frames. They'll actually go and do these crazy ass grabs where they're not supposed to. It can be a frustrating experience. But like I was stating though, this past week I played through like Hyper Street Fighter 2 with every single fighter. It actually took me about 2 days to do so because as soon as I beat the arcade mode for the first time with the normal difficulty, like the lowest normal difficulty requirements and stuff, turn it on to like 0, like stars and stuff, got everything else. I went all through. I beat the rest of it with all the other characters, including the hidden character Akuma, which how you unlock that character for play in the arcade mode is you have to oh god, you have to select a couple of different characters first, and then all of a sudden you have to press a button combination, and then all of a sudden it pops up right above reuse, like profile picture or something like that on Street Fighter 2. And so when you play as Akuma, it's basically playing almost as God mode because it's like he'll have all these crazy ass little techniques and stuff. He plays very similar to that Ryu and Ken. Only difference is like you can do various crazy combos. Let's say you can do a hard, like say roundhouse kicks or like Tatsumaki stuff like across the screen, right? And all of a sudden you can go into like a light like Shoryuken or something and combo into that. So there's certain combos you weren't able to do with some of the fighters like Ryu and Ken, but you could have with Akuma. So there's that aspects. The longest and the most arduous process I've done so far is playing through the entirety of Red Earth with every single character, trying to get every single ending. So here's the thing. There's 4 characters in Red Earth. Each of them have like 3 separate endings, right? There's even one, the main character, Leo, he has 4 different endings, right? So, in order to try to accomplish this, I didn't notice at the time. When I played through Leo to begin with, I got the best ending first. And that required me to do a decapitation attack on one of the enemies I was facing before going into the final portion of that game. So, in order for me to track what endings I had to pop up a guide on like GameFAQs or whatsoever, and I had to figure out, okay, why am I not unlocking a certain ending even though I'm matching certain criteria? And what ended up happening was there is a finite number of continues that will dictate what ending you're going to get. So if for say you don't if you continue more than say a couple different times, that'll get one ending. If you play through the complete art that whole mode and stuff as a character, that's the best ending without like losing or some aspects of it with some combinations. But then if you're going to get the normal ending to this game, you'd have to lose and continue upwards of like 20 times in order to get just the normal ending for some of these characters. So let's just say in the cusp of getting every single one of these endings, which I did, the trophy did pop. I had to play through certain aspects of Red Earth multiple times in order to figure out, oh, okay, this is this ending I get here. Okay, I got that ending here. Why am I not unlocking these type of endings and stuff? The say the bad or like the good endings of these two fighters now because I've been to the arcade mode. I've been through this whole campaign like twice now, and it's still not doing it right. So what happened is the last one that triggered that trophy pop was with a character by the name of like Mia Ling or something of that sort. Well, her initial thing, I'm supposed to get her bad ending right, and I have to lose like more than 5 times. I have to continue more than 5 times, but less than 19. And so that's how you go and get the bad ending for that. Whereas if you were to say do continues like 20 or over, you get the normal ending. So yeah, there's some complicated things that went into me trying to get the endings for Red Earth. That took the most time. Cyberbots? Cyberbots was the complete opposite. I blazed through the entirety of that game. I got every single pilot's endings and stuff, and it was a pretty fun, like chunky, like gameplay sort of experience to where I'm picking these different robots. I'm absolutely beating the shit out of the other like robots and stuff like that because some of them are freaking awesome. There's one robot which you're not really able to use like in the main game unless you figure out like how to do like certain types of like input reads before input commands before like say the character profile or thing pops up or something before you start a match. But there are some machines that are like so you have like an octopus. There's like one that's like a giant like black mech or something like that that has like incredible speed. There's one that's like a tank. There's like one that's like this and that. I mean, some of the robot designs inside here for cyberbots are fairly cool. And playing through with every single pilot, getting their different endings, I actually kind of wanted to continue to get all these different endings because it kept on getting different chunks of certain story aspects that all end in the same thing where you have to defeat this major like creation that humanity created and stuff that's basically like a sentient being and stuff that's like controlled by like artificial intelligence and stuff that wants to destroy the earth because it considers like the people that made it and stuff like that like pretty much like obsolete because they're full of like flaws and all this other stuff. But yeah, there was all of that stuff. That was a fun experience though, playing through Cyberbots with all the different characters and stuff. The last game I actually did play through the entirety of, I played through the original Darkstalkers with every single character. That one was pretty fun to some extent because of seeing some of the endings to the game to some of these characters are pretty funny. Like for example, you have this one character named John Talbane, where you play through this entire arcade mode, and he basically, after he wins the entire thing, okay, well, I'm gonna be changing back from a werewolf to like a normal human being. I mean, that's perfectly fine, right? And then all of a sudden you get an ending, say like with one of the fighters by the name of Victor, who's just basically Frankenstein, right? To where it's kind of like a morbid sort of ending or something for his thing, to where he actually goes to his father. His father's actually dead, right? It's like a skeleton form and stuff like that. It's like, hey, you created me and stuff like that. It's like, why don't you celebrate this with me? And like, it just ends like with him and like his sister or something like that, just celebrating in terms of like his victories and stuff like that. That they need to move on from the past and all this other stuff. And then all of a sudden, it's like you get the one for one of the Darkstalker characters, Felicia, which is the cat girl and stuff. And basically, her ending is she becomes a big movie star and stuff, and she's like, she has this lavish, like, all these riches and stuff. She's in the bath, she's like in the bathtub, right? And like, one of her major things is like, hey, I can hire Blanca as my leading man or something in my next movie. Just some, it's just crazy. All the endings are pretty funny and they're tongue in cheek stuff. And then I did the same thing for Darkstalkers 2 for the English version stuff. I thought it was funny. Just one more ending I wanted to say is for like for the merman and stuff. This whole initial thing of why his motivation he went through the arcade mode to beat the one of the big bad guys like Pyron and stuff like that is because he wanted to be like a strong like a leader figure because he's the last of his kind, right? Until one day he goes back to his kingdom and notices there's a female now that that all of a sudden it's just been looking for him all this time and stuff, and all of a sudden they create his family and stuff and have children and all this other stuff. It's just weird and really outlandish sort of endings to these type of campaigns because Darkstalkers in and of itself is sort of like it's almost like a fever dream, right? Because you got all these different types of characters of like you have demons, you do have like say like succubi, you have vampires, you have Frankenstein, you have like Pharaoh Anachorus, which is like basically like a mummy of like this pharaoh that existed for thousands of years, and then you have cat girls, you have like freaking like fishmen, you have Sasquatch. Yeah, Sasquatch is a character inside of the game. He's from like these Icelandic like areas and stuff, and basically his whole story, arcade scenario and stuff is like he's dedicated after defeating everybody, he decides that everybody on Earth or something like that, the humans are not strong enough, and so him and his people are going to go invade and take over the world. It's just some crazy shit, though, but it's some fun, crazy shit. So as of this moment, I have like 5 more games I'm still playing through. I'm going to complete, but it's been one hell of a time this week, Tyler. Basically, it's prompted me like after work to sit down and actually play some stuff. So I'm still very much into playing this Capcom Fighting Collection. As far as motivation of playing any other fighting games after this, I am not entirely too sure if I'm going to start doing that for the rest of the year. Because once I play a certain genre and I played enough of it, I don't touch it for a while.
Fair enough.
But that's all I've been playing.
All right. Well, I think that's gonna do it for us this week, guys. So if you've been you like this, like our show and everything like that, please like, follow, subscribe, check us out. We're on podcast services, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, all that. So if you can, yeah, give us, like I said, give us a thumbs up, a 5-star, a follow, subscribe, a share, whatever you can do. Really would appreciate it. And stuff like this week, if there's other content creators out there you like, they have a Patreon or a Twitch or a YouTube subscription or whatever. Any way you can support them, do that. Help them out. Stuff like that. A little, even if it's $1 or something like that, it means a lot. So if you can do that to people out there, do that. But yeah, I was your host. I was Tyler.
I've been Colonel Gables. So now, until next time, everyone, thank you for listening to a fun-filled episode of the Drunk-Nerds podcast.
Hey, Gables.
Yeah.
Too sweet.
Too sweet, man.
Bye, guys.
See ya.